It is. Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Easter at Peace of Christ Church. Woo, you made it! Here we are, just a couple of items of business. Number one, we have made some changes to the guide since the one you have was printed. So you're really only using the guide for your liturgies at communion and the litany. We've changed the flow, but we'll walk you right through it. We'll hold your hand all the way. And then the other thing that I want to say is, if you need to use the restroom, they're inside here. Thank you. We've had that happen before. So we are standing on the ancestral lands of the Tonkawa and Comanche peoples, who were the ancestral caretakers of this land, and currently Jill and Rhonda are the caretakers of this land, so we want to extend gratitude both to Jill and Rhonda and to our ancestral caretakers. So thank you very much. Jill and Rhonda are letting us use their space here. Thank you so much. Yes, thank you. All right. Well, it's Easter, so we're going to sing some songs about resurrection, right? I do invite everyone to stand. And your songs, you have a lyric sheet. You should be able to access everything. And if you want to move your body, that's cool too. I'm going to do it. Well, shame is a prison. Who has a grave? The shame is a robber, and he's come to take my name. And love is my redeemer, lifting me up from the ground. And love is my power, my freedom song is found. There ain't no way can hold my body down. Ain't no can hold my body down. When I hear that trumpet sound, I'm gonna rise up out of the ground. There ain't nothing can hold this body
Oh, fear is a lie with a smooth and velvet tongue. Oh, fear is a tiger who's always telling me to run. Oh, love is a resurrection. Love is a trumpet sound. Love is my way. Going to take my giants down. Gonna hold this body down.
no way could hold my body down. When I hear and when I hear that trumpet sound, I'm gonna rise up out of the ground. 'Cause there ain't no way
Lost return. Lost return. Voices heard. Morning loud rejoicing. Mountain shake. Roll away. Creation of composing. The Sabbath true. Earth renewed. The sun has found its singer. The darkness light. Death alive. You are my Redeemer. Behold, behold, behold the King. Behold, behold, you're making all things new. Behold, behold, behold the King. Behold, behold, you're making all things new. See, we've been struck down. We've been struck down. We're not destroyed. We've sown many tears. We've been joy. My eyes are open. My eyes are open. Behold, behold, behold what love can do. Behold, behold, you're making all things. Behold, behold, behold what love can do. Behold, behold, you're making all. One more time. Behold, behold, behold what love can do. Behold, behold, you're making all things new. You're making all things new. You're making all things new.
Well, I ain't worth much. My face is far too common. You could stack me up, still I'd be forgotten. And I never found a place among the chosen. Oh, but I rode the wave that gives the world its motion, and I found you. I found you. When the music played, I probably was dancing. And when the judges judged, you know I was winning. When the new year came, I sang without a lover. Oh, but when the world stood up, it set me on its shoulders, and I found you. I found you. I found you. Yeah, I found you. You are really home. You are really home. We've always known what you know. You're the devil's Thanks for standing. You can have a seat.
Hello. Hey, good morning, everybody. Peaceniks and friends. It's great to see you all. I do want to remind you, Tori's saying turn it up louder, or maybe I need to speak louder, which is not something I've ever been asked to do in my life. So, really glad that you're all here. And I want to remind, because I know some of us have just come in, if you have the worship guide with you, we've changed some of the order, and obviously I am not Stone Cold Fox, Reverend Matthew Hanzelka. I'm David Stipik. So we've changed some of the order and the... I'm sorry. Don't give me a microphone anymore.
We laughed a little too hard at that.
And so here on this Easter Sunday morning, there were a couple things that came to mind for me when thinking about communion. I'm in a residency program for chaplain training, and we were talking this week about some of our spiritual beliefs and values, and I had to write about sin and salvation, and after my writing and my conversation, one of my peers said, "So what about the cross?" I said, "I don't know what to do with it." And I read a really great quote later in the week from Brian Zahn. He was talking about this idea that for many of us, we have grown up with the idea that the cross and the work of the cross is God punishing God's self for salvation from God, and that doesn't make sense to a lot of people. And to possibly reframe it as seeing humans, people, punishing God for the work that God was doing, and God showing us the love that is available and the love that exists. And what I'm reminded of there led me back to Wilda Gaffney has a wonderful women's lectionary, and that's what I tend to use. And she says in regards to Joshua reading that she has for today, if I can get there. She says, Rahab's father's household is different from her household. She seeks the salvation of her entire family, whether they live with her or not, perhaps no matter what they think about her line of work. In verse 13, spare is less than a command and more a request. She saves all those who are in the house with her. In verse 17, she saves all those who are with her. And that's what I think about the work of the cross, is that all those who are with them are saved. And so I want to invite you now. The changes in our worship guide do not impact the liturgy for communion or the litany, so you can still access that there. And so if you will turn to that, I'll read the plain text and you'll read the bold with me. We want to remind you that at Peace of Christ we have an open table of communion, so anybody and everybody, any human that is here today is welcome to join us for communion. So God is within you. God is also within you. Lift up your hearts. We join in the beloved community. Let us give thanks for the blessing of life. Together we raise our voices in gratitude. God, we thank you for today. Thank you for the opportunity to be here and gathered together. For many of us, a time of worship on Easter Sunday morning has a lot of emotions from other times in our lives. I'm thankful that you have brought so many people here together who are searching, who are feeling like we've been found by you. Thankful for this community. Thankful for the place we're meeting together, the ability to be outside. Let's ask for each one of us as we move forward into this week and move away from this place, that we remember the love that we have access to. In the Father and the Son and the Spirit, we pray. Amen. So we're going to come and get these and then do the last part? Mm-hmm. No? Okay, great. Okay, so great is the mystery of faith. Christ has reimagined death, and we join him in bringing heaven to earth. So you are invited to come and retrieve your communion from Jenna and from Tori. You may descend.
There's no
Make me a vessel of make me a vessel of your peace. Where there is war, let fighting cease. All that divides us, come reconcile us. Make me a vessel of your peace. Make me a vessel of your love. Where there is hatred, break it up. All creeds and colors bind us together. Make me a vessel of your love. Pour me out, pour me out, pour me out. Wherever I am, wherever I go, pour me out, pour me out, pour me out. Wherever I am, wherever I go. Make me a vessel of your hope. Where dreams are dead, come wake them up. A new horizon, I feel it rising. Make me a vessel of your hope. Pour me out, pour me out, pour me out. Wherever I am, wherever I go, pour me out, pour me out, pour me out. Wherever I am, wherever I go. Rushing river, let mercy flow through my heart to my soul. Like a rushing river, let mercy flow through my heart to my world. Like a rushing river, let mercy flow through my heart to my world. Like a rushing river, let mercy flow through my heart to my world. Like a rushing river, let mercy flow through my heart to my world. Like a rushing river, let mercy flow out, pour me out, wherever I go.
Have a seat.
If you are a kid, any age, come on up. Come on, come over this way. Yeah, there's an ant pit. Hey, George.
Oh, now it's on.
Okay, you can sit, but you might want to stand because there's stickers, so I'd just be a little careful. Hi. We have so many kids. Here, move over this way because I just don't want anyone on the ant bed. Kind of take a little step. There you go. Yeah, one more step.
What's up, baby?
Okay. Perfect. Because I'm pretty sure you can hear me. Look at all of you. It's so good to see you. Happy Easter. We're excited. What did y'all see? What did y'all see when y'all came to this building? John, eggs. Lots of eggs.
I saw
Raise your hand, I'll call on you, or you can have the mic.
eggs.
We saw eggs.
Eggs in a tree. I know that pink tape on trees.
That's a good one. Pink tape. You saw the details. Okay, so today I can't get to everyone, but we are talking about eggs, right? We see a lot of eggs at Easter, right? We've seen them all over. I have a little basket of colorful eggs here. So we're going to talk a little bit about the symbolism of eggs and what that really means. Raise your hand if you've ever seen an animal egg or held one or touched one or seen one. Okay. That is so cool. I have this. Sorry. Okay, I have this book of eggs I wanted to show you. Thank you. Look at all this. There's all different sizes, colors, and I just love seeing all the different speckles and just what all the art and all that. One second, Arthur. John, 1 second. Okay, so when we see an egg, it symbolizes new life. And when we think about Easter, when we see all these eggs around, that is what we can think of when we see Easter. We see all these eggs, and there's the bunnies, and there's colors, and there's all those things, but really it means new life. Because when you see this, what comes out? These are all the birds that come from all those eggs.
Baby bird.
And there's a bug. Also, bugs come from eggs too. So there's lots of animals that come from eggs, right? So here's a story about some eggs. And a long, long time ago, they had the Romans. And the Romans say all life comes from an egg. And it's a symbolism for new life. And did you know that eggs have been given as gifts before Easter, before anyone ever celebrated Easter? People a long, long time ago would give eggs and they would symbolize life. And a long time ago, in another culture, in another religion called Greek Orthodox, there's a legend that Mary Magdalene was one of Jesus' followers, and that she walked around and she would hold a basket of eggs to symbolize the resurrection of Jesus. And another culture, come on, go sit by Will. In another culture where I'm from, which is the country of Romania, but a lot of Eastern European, Eastern Orthodox cultures, they dye all their eggs bright red, just like this. And you'd have a basket at home of boiled eggs, and they're bright red, and I love them. They're so pretty. And the red, does anyone have an idea of what the red symbolizes? Charlotte.
I'm Eleanor.
Oh, Eleanor, I'm sorry.
I'm going to say Jesus' blood.
Yes, exactly. The red symbolizes Jesus' blood. The shell symbolizes the tomb that held Jesus after he died. And then they would go around and they play this really cool game, and they take turns cracking the egg. And one person cracks and they say, Jesus is risen, and the other person cracks and they say Jesus is risen, and only one egg usually cracks. And the person in the whole group who's left and their egg hasn't cracked, that means they get good luck for the year. And once it's cracked, it symbolizes the opening of the tomb. So anyway, it's just kind of fun to learn about different cultures. So the affirmation for this month, which kind of goes along with Easter and kind of goes along with new life, it says, my true self is ever new. I am light eternal, love and joy. So we can all say it together. My true self is ever new. I am eternal light, love and joy. So go as you enjoy our day with many, many eggs, and take this message with you in your heart. Thank you all so much. I know you're so excited for what is to come, and I'll tell you that. So if you are 2 years old, 3 years old, 4 years old, 5-year-old, or 6 years old, you can line up by that black mat with Brandy. And then if you are 7 or older, you can go back and sit back down.
Good morning, everybody. Good to see you all on this beautiful Easter Sunday. I have a reading for you all. I'll be reading Isaiah 65, verses 17 through 25, and I'm reading from the New Revised Standard Version. So feel free to look it up if you'd like, or feel free to listen as I read it. For I am about to create new heavens and a new earth. The former things shall not be remembered or come to mind, but be glad and rejoice forever in what I am creating. For I am about to create Jerusalem as a joy and its people as a delight. I will rejoice in Jerusalem and delight in my people. No more shall the sound of weeping be heard in it, or the cry of distress. No more shall there be in it an infant that lives but a few days, or an old person who does not live out a lifetime. For one who dies at 100 years will be considered a youth, and one who falls short of 100 will be considered accursed. They shall build houses and inhabit them. They shall plant vineyards and eat their fruit. They shall not build and another inhabit. They shall not plant and another eat. For like the days of a tree shall the days of my people be, and my chosen shall long enjoy the work of their hands. They shall not labor in vain or bear children for calamity, for they shall be offspring blessed by the Lord, and their descendants as well. Before they call, I will answer. While they are yet speaking, I will hear. The wolf and the lamb shall feed together. The lion shall eat straw like the ox, but the serpent, its food, shall be dust. They shall not hurt or destroy on all my holy mountain, says the Lord. We hear the voice of God through these words.
All right, we're going to be reading through the Litany for Delight by Reverend Fran Pratt. We're going to be doing it together. I'll be reading the not bold, and we'll all read together the bold. And just tossing it out there, I know sometimes I've gotten nervous reading in front of other people, and I'm worried about stumbling over the words. I would encourage you to read with gusto. And if you slip over a word, I feel really confident in saying the people around you are not going to judge you. So put some emotion behind it if you feel like you want to, and I hope that you want to. Let's read together. God, our experience here tells us delight is impossible, and we mostly go around believing it. We are caught up in our trauma and terror, bound by our responsibility and righteousness, transfixed by the 24-hour news cycle. So we forget that the big story is ultimately one of life and joy. Even the disciples got stuck in shock and disbelief and couldn't yet reach joy to see Christ alive in flesh. Luckily, we've had a wider vantage point and more time to digest it. Christ is risen, and the whole world is rising with him. We get to live in the knowledge that death is overcome. We can trade our mortification for delight. Sure, we'll go through hard times and circumstances. We'll contend with loss, grief, and death here on earth. But we don't have to choose our trauma forever. We can choose to perceive it in the light of resurrection. We can choose to use it as a tool for our liberation. We can let it teach us mastery over death. So this is our intention: to create space for as much joy as possible, to offer nourishment and sanctuary to all in need, to train ourselves in the way of love, to cultivate peace in our inner beings, to delight in creation. By this commitment to delight, we'll help change the world. We ourselves will rise with Christ. Help us, O God, to believe that delight is possible, and to remember that resurrection has already begun. Amen.
A reading from the Good News of John, where he speaks of the first one who spoke of the good news. Chapter 20, verses 1 through 18. Early in the morning on the first day of the week, while it was still dark, Mary of Magdala came to the tomb. She saw that the stone had been rolled away from the entrance, so she ran off to Simon Peter and the other disciple, the one Jesus loved, and told them, "The rabbi has been taken from the tomb. We don't know where they have put Jesus." At that, Peter and the other disciple started out toward the tomb. They were running side by side, but then the other disciple outran Peter and reached the tomb first. He didn't enter, but he bent down to peer in and saw the linen wrappings lying on the ground. Then Simon Peter arrived,
and entered the tomb. He observed the linen wrappings on the ground, and he saw the piece of cloth that had covered Jesus' head lying not with the wrappings, but rolled up in a place by itself. Then the disciple who had arrived first at the tomb went in. He saw and believed. As yet, they didn't understand the scripture that Jesus was to rise from the dead, and then the disciples went back to their homes. Meanwhile, Mary stood weeping beside the tomb. Even as she wept, she stooped to peer inside, and there she saw 2 angels in dazzling robes. One was seated at the head, and the other at the foot of the place where Jesus' body had been laid. They asked her, "Why are you weeping?" She answered, "Because they have taken away my rabbi, and I don't know where they have put the body." No sooner has she said this than she turned around and caught sight of Jesus standing there, but she didn't know it was Jesus. He asked her, "Why are you weeping? For whom are you looking?" She supposed it was the gardener, so she said, "Please, if you're the one who carried Jesus away, tell me where you've laid the body, and I will take it away." Jesus said to her, "Mary." She turned to him and said, "Rabboni," which means teacher. And then Jesus said, "Don't hold on to me, for I have not yet ascended to Abba God. Rather, go to the sisters and brothers and tell them, I'm ascending to my Abba and to your Abba, my God and your God." Mary went to the disciples and said, "I have seen the teacher," and she reported what the Savior had said to her. We hear the voice of God in the reading of these sacred words. Thanks be to God.
Brittany, I have your ordination certificate here. Please. We know you've been waiting for it. I just opened my binder and saw it. Brittany was ordained at Peace of Christ Church in June of 2020. And I've been meaning to give her this ordination certificate since then. I will be editing that out of the recording on our podcast. Good morning. The name of this, oh wait, I have to say, Drew, where is Drew? Drew, that was such an awesome reading of the litany. You really brought it to life, and I couldn't help but think about how happy Fran was to hear it read, and that was her dream of dreams, to have it read with such gusto, as you said, and it was such a powerful litany for today. So thank you, and thank you for writing it. So the sermon today is called Proximity Resurrects Us. But I also wanted to just say that, and this may or may not mean anything to you, but for those who need to hear it, in parentheses, I've secretly also named it a love letter to the deconstructors. So I hope there's some helpfulness found in today's message. In our gospel reading that Matthew just read, Jesus says to Mary, "Go tell them I am ascending." In other words, go tell them about what you have seen. Go tell them that I'm not dead. Go tell them about resurrection. Tell them about life. New Testament professor Jamie Clark Souls says that John uses a special past tense in the Greek here with Mary's announcement to the disciples when she says, "I have seen the teacher," or you may recognize it as, "I have seen the Lord." The point of this tense is to convey action completed in the past, but that has an ongoing effect in the present. So when Mary says, "I have seen the teacher," or "I have seen the Lord," she is not merely reporting a past account of something, but she is laying bare her own becoming. In Clark Souls' words, quote, "She has seen in a way that changes her life, its direction, and her legacy forever." So, when we talk about resurrection, we are also talking about the stuff of our own becoming. And Mary's interaction with Jesus is a reminder that resurrection is relevant to us because our own resurrections are wrapped up in our becomings. And our becoming awake and aware to God's presence within us and around us, becoming awake and aware of divine proximity, this is the heartbeat of our faith journeys. So, we don't need to know all the answers about God to be in proximity. We don't need to be monks or mystics when it comes to our spiritual practices. We don't need all our theological ducks to be in a row or have our lives figured out. Proximity has the power to relieve the pressure that otherwise binds us to inaction because it presents us with terms we might actually be able to handle. Namely, that our faithfulness requires simply a willingness to be in proximity to the ways of Christ. In other words, we put ourselves in proximity to radical love, proximity to disruptive peacemaking, proximity to unconditional inclusion. We put ourselves in proximity to every ingredient for salvation, meaning new life, resurrection. Our willingness is enough, and we don't have to worry about opting out of the work. We don't have to worry about moving into the action of heaven on earth. Truly and consistently practicing proximity will breathe new life into us. It can resurrect our dead and dying faiths. And it will change how we live and move in the world, in the process. Our willingness is enough. It is enough because the longing for divine proximity is innate. It already lives within us. It was created as a part of us. I look at the creation story, that ideological narrative that's meant to answer questions about why and how we exist, and I see hints of this longing. The story of Adam and Eve is but one of many creation stories in existence, and you may have noticed that it is told from a place of shame, from needing to explain our divine separation. You may have heard terms like total depravity or original sin in relation to this. We have inherited a creation story that stresses what we don't have, what we need to take by force, because there's never enough to go around. And I think about the book Braiding Sweetgrass, which Fran led a book group on this last winter, and how in indigenous spirituality, the creation stories are not like this. They begin with a kindredness with Creator and a reverence for creation, offering origin stories that encourage us to learn, to receive in humility, to share. These paradigms are so unlike our Christian origins that emphasize our lack of proximity, our scarcity, our never enoughness. And as we move away from these harmful theologies, many of us have even left faith communities behind. We've even let go of some relationships, just as we've discovered an urgent need to relay our foundation, and we have experienced spiritual displacement. Do you know what I mean? Deconstruction has displaced us. Social and political disillusionment has displaced us. Waking up and getting healed and free has displaced us. Sorry, this little table was not big enough. Good thing I know how to work GarageBand. Okay. Our new ways of thinking and being and doing have been tinged with the grief of all we have lost. We have been uprooted and ungrounded. And amidst all of this, it's no surprise to me that we might feel like the God we once knew is dead. Maybe he is. Here's what I'm saying, though. Don't stay here. Don't stay in this place. Weep and wail and grieve. Take all the time you need, but don't set up shop here. This graveyard of deceased ideas and beliefs is not your home. Maybe this is what Jesus meant when he told Mary to let go, to go on. Jesus said, do not stay on this burial ground. Don't stay here with the traces of death still fresh, but go with the movement of resurrection. Jesus said, go, and Mary went with the same faith that brought her to the tomb to begin with. It was a faith in and a desire for proximity. And this is the faith that ultimately resurrected her, pulling her out of her grief and compelling her to action and forward movement. Mary realized that proximity required her to move toward the things of life. Now, while we may not have faith in very much these days, I'm hopeful that at the very least, we can have a similar faith in the power of proximity. Proximity even on the other side of all the faith deconstruction. Proximity even amidst our internal faith chaos or faith crises. Because what we are in proximity to in our daily lives has the power to make or break us, to shape and change us, to fill and fuel us. We don't have control of much these days, but we have control of this. We can decide to make shifts. We can choose to move in the general direction of resurrection. We can daily tend to our presence and our posture. We can trust that such tending has the power to deepen our awareness of the already existing divine proximity in our lives. Every year I read these Easter texts. You might think it would get old, but every year I'm different and the world is different, so the text is different. And what struck me this year was how Mary came to the tomb first and left the tomb last. She was given that freaking deacon energy, y'all, if you know what I mean. She was the first to show up, the last to leave. She didn't come to play. And I love her grit and her tenacity here so much. I love her absolute insistence to not leave her pain, her questions, her fear, her uncertainty, her sadness behind a moment too soon. It reminds me of that First Testament story about Jacob, who wrestled with God until he wrenched a blessing from that encounter. Mary's particular arrival and then her staying, even after the others had left, was not unlike that wrestling to me. She was demanding a blessing of her own. She may or may not have had very much faith. Maybe she didn't believe right away like Peter or John, or like them head home early with a lighter heart. No, Mary was counting her losses. She was cynical. She sought Jesus even if all she could get out of her search was a dead body back in its tomb. Mary was not leaving, though, without a sign of proximity. So, chaotic and tear-strewn as her demand for a blessing may have been, unlikely a candidate as she was, hopeless and wounded as she arrived, Mary stayed, hands gripped tightly around the little of her faith that remained. And as we know, she would be the first to witness the resurrected Christ. She would have the honor of becoming apostle to the apostles. And it makes me think maybe we are not lesser for our questions or our uncertainty. Maybe the less faith we have, the better. Maybe the less hope we have, the closer in proximity to God we actually are. Maybe our tenderness, our vulnerability, our doubts, and our cynicism are actually fertile ground for the kind of grit and tenacity we need to wrench a blessing of our own. Maybe, like Mary, we are right where we should be. Could the stuff of resurrection be in our reach too? The truth is, we are already in divine proximity simply by the mere fact that we are living, breathing humans. children of God with Imago Dei pulsing through our veins. It is this knowledge embodied that has the power to work in our lives in the same radical way it did Mary's. It is enough to change how we proceed in these wild times on this wild earth. And not just change how we proceed, but sustain us along the way. Because resurrection is about so much more than surviving. It is about rising. It is about ascending. And it is for us too. So, rather than spreading ourselves thin with a laundry list of things we ought to be doing, what if we just distilled it down to the pursuit of proximity? What if we simply drew closer to God in the best ways we knew how and called it enough? Remember, we don't have to be perfect. We don't have to have it all together. We don't need to arrive first. All we need is that willingness to put ourselves in proximity to the ways of Christ. And I wonder, were we to consistently do this, could we experience resurrection in our own lives, in our own ways, based on who we are, how we are wired, and the realities of our various circumstances? Because listen, there will never be a blueprint here. Not at this church. You can go to another one and probably get a blueprint, but you're never going to get one here. Ever. We will only give you the gentle nudge to step into your own work and to trust that you, child of God, are empowered to do it. So as we move into our birthright of divine proximity, we extend an offering to the world via our own commitment to proximity, not just with Creator, but also proximity with creation. We do this knowing that we cannot see the humanity in each other without first getting into proximity of one another. This, more than anything, was the Christ agenda. Getting close to the most unlikely people. So, we too draw close to one another. We put ourselves in proximity to the most unlikely people in our contexts and out of it. And from this vantage point, where the Imago Dei of the other is finally in our sight, we receive gifts such as understanding, compassion, and openness. We receive gifts that increase our own willingness. Our willingness to be in proximity becomes an act of love as natural as breathing. It becomes an act of life, our ongoing offering of resurrection to a weary world. So, this Easter, I pray that expanded awareness of divine presence, of divine presence would nourish us, quenching our thirst, energizing us, filling our spirits, healing our heavy-heartedness, strengthening our bones, reminding us of the home we can build. Its foundation is peace. Our displacement is a distant memory. May it be so. May proximity resurrect us. Amen.
Amen. Speaking of resurrection, we're going to sing a song about resurrection. Do you remember? I invite you to stand if you will, if you want to. You don't have to. It's kind of a get to, not a got to. Brittany read from Isaiah 65, and this tune that we're going to sing right now is directly drawn from that Isaiah 65 text, and it's about resurrection and reversing all the things here. So, and some of you might also know that today's my last day on staff at Peace. So, honey, if you love me, sing.
right, y'all can sit down for just a second. And so what's going to happen is we're going to say a few things, then we're going to sing the benediction, and then I think there are tables somewhere, and we're going to get those tables, and we're going to set up shop over here for a picnic after all of this. That's what's happening. I'm not saying it again. I'm saying it now. So Fran just mentioned it's her last Sunday. She's been with us for 5 years and really just shaped the culture of worship in the most significant ways of our little tiny community's history. We're so sad, but also just really supportive and excited for her journey ahead. We wanted to mark the moment with some gifts.
So we sent out an email a few weeks ago to ask you to contribute to a book for Fran, and it's called Letters, Lyrics, Litanies, and Limericks, the Peace of Christ collection. And if you did not get to send this in, email Fran yourself. It's too late. No, but we really just wanted to be able to creatively share our sentiments with Fran and how much she means to us, and so this is for you.
You know I love a good limerick.
I know. The dirtier the better.
We are live on Facebook.
Yes, I'm so excited for all of us to be able to look through that. Is that public? Okay, I will be looking through it later, though. We also, Fran, we wanted to give you another gift, and so basically we know how much your time means to you and how sparse it has been these last years in the pandemic. We got you a 2-night voucher for during the week sometime at the Ruby Hotel in Round Rock.
Sounds amazing.
From us to you, so you'll be able to have some time to yourself and whatever it is that feels good, whenever it is. So we love you.
Thanks, y'all.
And
Yes, I love
send
you
you
guys.
off with so
I'm not
much
leaving.
love.
I'm just stepping off staff. I love you guys.
You heard her, and it's on the video. She's not leaving.
All right. Fast. Go fast.
Would you stand as you're able? Sing with us.
And life flows from you, flowing me. May the joy comes from you, come to me. May the light that shines from you shine through me. May the love that pours through you pour. You're bringing the world to
I forgot to talk about the Easter egg hunt, so I'm back. I also wanted to say that this is Jonathan, and starting tomorrow, he's officially our interim pastor of worship, and we're so grateful and excited to spend however long with you. Okay, so the Easter egg hunt is where all the Easter eggs are, but if you all walk around who are interested in watching and participating, just meet over there. Where exactly are we meeting? In front of the porch?
Front of the porch.
In front of the porch, and we'll have an MC over there.
Don't do anything without my instructions.
Don't do anything without the MC's
I'm a really
instructions.
fun MC for kids'
You will
Easter
know
egg
who the
hunts.
MC is. Thank you.